All right, guys. Well, didn't think I'd ever be back here doing this, but the League of Inches is back. So a bit of a talk about footy from a fan's perspective. We seem to have a lot of things from, say, media outlets and all that kind of jazz. We're just going to come and hit it hard from a fan's point of view. Some things might be a little bit biased, bit of fun, things like that. So, look, today's one's just a bit of a quick one. Just touch on a couple of things that happened over the weekend, but also I don't want to touch on things too much because probably by the end of the week I'm looking at having a guest on to have a bit of a chat about a couple other things a bit more in detail. So try to be a bit quick with this one today. Go over a couple of little talking points and go from there. So first off, I want to start off the show each time by doing my hats off for the weekend. So just a performance that I thought deserved a little bit of a hats off. This week I'm going to give it to the Knights because I watched that last night, and honestly, any other team probably bows down and says, "All right, we've got enough excuses here to basically let a team run over us. Let's go home, forget about this week, start again next week." And I've got to give credit to the youngsters that had in. Some of them I didn't even know of, and they came out, they gave it their all, and it was great to see that some youngsters really have a shot with their chance of being given and prove why they deserve to be there. So you have to say overall, at the moment, it's going off that, the Knights squad as a whole is very strong, and even with two of their lead playmakers in Ponga and Pearce basically out for the whole game, there's a lot of things to like there if you're a Knights fan, and kudos to you, and it's going to be a very hard team to beat coming up. So quickly touch on the Mighty Eels. Great win, I thought, on Thursday, and there's a lot of Broncos fans out there that I'm personally mates with, and it was good to get one up on you. So I thought we played actually very well. I don't like to normally hype us up and talk us up because as a Para supporter, long-suffering one, we're used to being let down, I guess. That's pretty much the truth to it. We've got a really good team at the moment, I think. It's a really well-balanced team. I think the way we played, the new rules really suits us. Moses has come into his own, and I thought Gutho was phenomenal. But one person that I want to give a quick rap to was Junior Paulo. I thought was absolutely massive for us with his hard carries and also his offloads. Just almost as if we're playing with an extra playmaker out there, and he's 130 kilos or something. So very good weapon to have out there, and I'm looking forward to the year to come for the Mighty Eels. Look, I want to have a quick... The new rules, I thought this week was probably the best overall round of football that I've watched and enjoyed for a very, very long time. And I think that's down to the two new rules that have come in. The one ref, it just seemed like it flowed so much better with things. The teams knew after about 5 to 10 minutes how the referee was going to control it, how strict he was with things, and the game just flowed from there. And it was so high paced. That 6 to go rule where it's just a quick for the little infringements in the ruck, I thought it's perfect. So it lets your smaller dummy halves and your playmakers and your little men have a bit more say in the game now. And I think you're going to have to be really strategic from a coach's point of view in terms of how you use your subs moving forward, especially with your big men. So, and I think it's going to be coming back to the old traditional number 14 role where it would be a small sort of type guy from the bench, say a hooker or something, would come on for about a 20-25 minute spell and just basically wreak havoc. He'd be running from dummy half every second or third play, and I think that's going to be a big thing that comes back into play this year, and I can't wait to see it because there's been some very good 14s in the past. Think of people like PJ Marsh and Sean Berrigan used to do it very well as well. Those sorts of players are going to come back, and I can't wait to see it. It's the league's probably the best it's looked for a long, long time, and it's only going to get better for the remainder of this year. So, look, a couple of sour points to talk about. Again, I'm just trying to get a quick one out there today. Go a bit more in detail about some of these things later in the week. The Titans. I'm up here on the Goldie, and I tell you, it's not a great time to be a Titans fan, and I can feel the pain because Para recently had a fairly tough patch for a couple of years there, and pretty much the laughing stock. Each team thought it was the bye when they versed us. I've just got to come out and say I still don't think it's going to get any better for the next 2 to 3 years. I think this is a project that is going to take at least 2 to 3 years to clean up. There's a lot of players out there that I thought on the weekend's game that they basically just didn't want to be there. They're there for the paycheck. They're there to live up on the Goldie and enjoy the lifestyle for a couple of years and not really put their footy as the focal point of why they're actually up here. So it's hard. I hope they stick with the coach because the coach is a good coach. He has a lot of great things he's done over in over in the UK. He's got a really good structure of how he likes to play his football. But I don't think there's much to be celebrating if you're a Titans fan at the moment, and unfortunately for a little bit longer to come because there's just players there that I don't think want to be there for the right reasons, and it just makes it so much harder when you've got a couple of players that do, but they're playing with another group of 13 players out there that they don't want to do too much about it. So unfortunately for Titans fan, I don't have anything great to say at the moment about you, but I do hope there's a couple of wins coming up for you. They do deserve it, but hopefully some of these players start to look at themselves in the mirror and think exactly why they're here. It's a short career being a footballer, and you've got to make the best of it while you can. So the other one I want to touch on, I'm going to touch on this quickly because the guest I've probably got coming up in this week is a big Dragons fan, and I know he does want to talk about this at a bit more of detailed length. But the Dragons, for mine, I watched every game on the weekend. It was great to watch the footy again, and the Dragons, for mine, are just that far off. I talk about the Titans, but honestly, at the moment, if the Titans versus the Dragons, I'd probably be tipping the Titans because, for mine, the Titans have been bad now for a season or two. It's sort of been a plateau sort of effect. There's been little bits of improvement you can see from them, but that's really it. But the Dragons, it's just like they've just continued to go down. It's nothing to be happy about as a Dragons fan. I know a lot of the Dragons fans at the moment are calling for the head coach in Paul McGregor, and I understand that totally. I'd be saying the same thing. I don't think when your team continues to show nothing, basically, out in the field and they've had, 2 months now to restructure their football for the remainder of this year and get it right. It seems like they've done absolutely nothing in that time frame where other teams you see come out this week, they're on the ball, hitting hard. The line defence was brilliant. They're up in the attack on the ball. There was just nothing from the Dragons over the weekend. And people like Norman, where he's been to a couple of clubs now, can't set the world on fire with anything. Their halves, for instance, at the moment, Hunt and Norman are probably on 1.6, 1.7 million combined a year, with Hunt being on $1 million. Norman probably earning about 700. They're not worth half that at the moment, and it's not their fault that they're on that. The Dragons ended up signing them on that deal, so good on them for getting it. But basically, when you're signing players for that amount, you're expecting success and you're expecting week to week on point, at least 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 games, and they're not getting that from either of those two, and they're not gelling. I don't know if I know a couple of the Fox people said over the weekend putting Hunt back to 14 could be something that works, but at the moment you just got to, first of all, you can't really have a 14 on the bench that's on $1 million. That's going to just mess up your salary cap. But there's just got to be some things there that they look at. And as I said, I'll talk about it a bit more in detail over the week ahead. So any Dragons fans out there with some questions or anything, please post them and get to them in later chat in the week. But last thing I want to just touch on, I've done a top 4, what I think for the year, and I've done a bottom 4 as well. So the reason why I haven't done the rest, the 5 to the 12, because I pretty much think those remainder teams it's going to be a tight battle for those remainder positions. But I think these top 4 and these bottom, there's quite a bit of a difference there at the moment in terms of how they're both playing and how successful one will be and how unsuccessful the other will be. So the top four I've got, I've done this in pretty much order at the moment. I've got the Storm coming in at fourth. I've got Parramatta coming third. The Raiders second. And I think the only thing that kept me away from the going for the Raiders for first, which I was tossing up between them and first place for a long time, was I just think the travel might get to them towards the back end, considering we don't know how long this restrictions will last in terms of they have to use Campbelltown as their home ground. But if that continues on for a lot of the year, then I think it's going to start to hurt them towards the back end, because that home ground advantage at Canberra, especially in winter, that's almost getting an extra 12 points for them, and it's very hard to go there and win there in the winter's days. So I think that might be a little bit of a thing, that they might get a couple of losses just because of maybe a bit of fatigue for the travel. Going from Canberra to Campbelltown isn't the easiest trip. So at first I have the Roosters. I was just watching them over the weekend, and they've just got this. Trent Robinson is a mastermind of a coach. They've just got this way. If you look at across the park still, Tedesco, Cordner's back to. I forgot how good Cordner was. He's probably the form second rower of the comp, the best second rower of the comp. He's just Mr. Consistency, and when he's in that form, it's probably a good thing they did rest him at the start. A lot of coaches probably would have felt pressure to put their best team on the park from the start to get a couple of wins up, but they've just got this plan in place at the moment, and that team is going to be an extremely hard team to beat. I've got them winning it, being top of the comp anyway after the 20 rounds that will be played. They're my number one. So the bottom four, I've got the Warriors coming in at 13th. For mine, I just think, again, I think being away from home for quite some time might get to them. I did like what I've seen. Sorry, I had a bit of a phone call come in there and cut the video off. As with the Warriors, got them coming 13 just because I feel like for mine, being away from home for so long, it's going to get an effect down the track. It might be up at the moment and they get to be around each other as well. They'll create a close bond. It's us against them type mentality, which we've seen a lot in the past with rugby league works. But I think that will take an effect. As I said, I did like what I seen on the weekend, and they were close to getting the hats off for the week. Gutsy performance, but again, it was against the Dragons team that, for mine, I even rate the Titans beating him at the moment. So 14th, I've got the Dogs. I just don't think the attack-wise they're there. I think their defence is okay. They've got guts and determination in there. You can tell that, which is the unfortunate thing for Dog supporters at the moment. They've got a team there that have the heart to play, unlike some of these other bottom teams. They just don't have the skill. The halves especially, when you've got someone like Foran who you put so much money into to lead your side around being on the sideline, and obviously you can't predict when injuries occur, so there's no blame here for any of that. But it just makes it hard for a footy club to plan and move forward with what they've got. And they've got some young halves in at the moment, and they just don't seem to be able to lack the control or the maturity to plan and stick to the game plan for the entirety of the 80 minutes. And it just seems like so many times, especially on the last tackle, there's just no real option there and no go-to. So toss up here between the last two. I've gone the Dragons at 15th because I don't know why, really. I just think what I think is going to happen in the next couple of weeks, McGregor will get sacked, and then I think the Dragons will then. They've got a team on paper that is pretty good, especially in the forwards. But I just think after that happens and they get a bit of a butt kick from the new coach and a bit of a shake-up for the players, I think they will start to get a couple of results towards the back end. 16th, I've got the Titans. As I said, I just think there's going to be another couple of really tough years while there's a real serious clean-up of the place. Fans need to be patient with them. It's going to be a tough road. I hope the NRL helps them to continue the franchise as well. I hope there's no any issues with keeping that up on board. they're the big thing for me moving forward, is that the clean-up work is going to be hard, and I just can't see that getting fixed anytime this year. And unfortunately, I think the spoon will go to the Titans. So, all right, guys, that's it. As I said, try to keep it as quick as possible for everyone today. Get another one happening by hopefully the end of the week with a guest to talk about a few more things in detail. I'll probably go towards more so the detailed ones just straight to YouTube, so make sure you give that a subscription. But I'll also post a few things here and there on Facebook and keep up the interactions. Any questions, or if you want to be involved, please shoot me a message, give me a call, talk about a bit of footy. But until then, enjoy your week, guys, and how good is it that the footy's back? See yous.